Here's an example of how I find my music placements. It's quite challenging. Um, so here I am in my ASCAP Q Sheet portal, which I love that system. I mean, when I first moved to California and I started to get involved with ASCAP, I really felt like I had finally reached a plateau, and I certainly am grateful for them. And so, anyways, so here we have just a short amount of music used, about a minute's worth, of a piece called Anarchy Rules. This piece is very important because it was one of the pieces I made when I was all the way back in Florida, and I still had the Fingers of Fury making all this epic trailer music. So anyways, this was made here in Florida, but it was then orchestrated and reproduced in Germany by Sonaton by a guy named Gregor Narholtz, who did a fantastic job of redoing the entire collection, which was called Colosseum, and then morphed into other titles such as Fight for Victory and so on. So the piece is called Anarchy Rules, and then it's version C, because they have versions on Sonaton's library. And actually the D version is pretty cool too. So actually this particular piece was actually from Fight to Victory. And so you get into the Sonaton system, you search for the song, you can find the song, Anarchy Rules C, and it's just a lighter version of the main version, because in TV they often want, you know, either stems or specialized versions that are called like underscores, because it's easier for them to sync the material without all the booming and banging that I like to do so much. So that's how I found it there. And then I was able to track it down using the Q sheet information at the top here, where they list, where get there? So they list information about the episode title, which is pretty useless, but the air date. Oftentimes the air date does come in handy. And so this was from something called the PGATour cut, but it has a different title, which is the Players Championship Recap, once I finally discovered it. And the actual official video for it is here on the PGATour channel. And I can't actually play any of the music because I'll get pinged on my own channel for playing my music, because that's how this system works. And that's kind of looking out for my best interest so I don't give away my work for free. And plus other composers had collaborated on that material. So anyways, the music of mine actually starts at about 15 minutes in. It's just a short little piece that's very ostinato and very ferocious, but it doesn't have the big drums. And so it's just a short example of how my music is used in the TV world. And I'm really excited to have it used by the tour, because it really reflects the style of that kind of music very well. And I like making orchestral music, and it just so happens that golf and orchestral music go hand in hand. And they use that music a lot for trailers, for their TV shows as well. But for their tournaments especially, I have some placements with the PGATour of my music. So anyways, that's how I found my track. And so now I have yet another piece that I can add to my IMDb. I do not know the title of the show yet, but what will happen is I'll check into the title of the show, and then I'll add it to CMDess at IMDb. I'm enjoying using IMDb all these years for CMDess while I have an opportunity. I don't know how much longer, you know, these systems will stay this way or how things will change. Everything changes. But as you can see on my IMDb, I have 133 placements of my music for shows like that, for like the PGATour, but also, you know, American Ninja Warrior was one of my big, huge placements, and it was an amazing accomplishment to be able to have my material used for that show. And I could only have done that with the support of my publishers in California back in the time. But now I have publishers also in Germany, like I mentioned, Sonaton. And so that's a really great, big deal. My proudest collection was actually with the work I had done with Sonaton, because they dubbed in a live orchestra. And man, I was so blown away by what they were able to do to really capture what I had in mind. I'm just a, you know, person who does music from my heart. So what an honor to have, you know, incredibly well-trained, incredibly versatile, incredible virtuosos performing on my work and keeping an eye on the material that I had done. So to make it more presentable, to make it more palatable, and to also bring out things I hadn't considered. So this IMDb description is my old description. I haven't updated in many years. Maybe I'll get around to it one day, but it still talks about how I was in San Francisco, California, which I had spent 12 years there. And never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined I would come back to Florida. But because of the state of the world at the moment, it's probably better that I have done so I did not end up in a strange circumstance in California, because it's just too competitive, and I did not have a good vision for what was coming ahead. So I can continue my battle with music, my battle in the music industry from a remote destination here in Florida for the time being, until I eventually, can't do it anymore, but we'll see. So anyways, that was an example of how I track down my placements. So that's keeping in mind, I had to do that for like all these shows, hundreds of shows. Now, they're not all small placements and they're not all big placements, but some of them, like for instance, the American Ninja Warrior, they use like an entire piece, which is an incredible honor because it's a cool show. There's a lot of great shows on here that use my pieces, and some new stuff that are on Netflix and Hulu that are also using my material, which is awesome. And there's some intelligent like shows like the Josh Gates stuff, which is a great honor to have my material on there. So it's really cool. I always wanted to get on How It's Made, but I don't know if they're even making that show anymore. That's a cool show. But anyways, so that's the gist of how you track down a music placement, add it to your IMDb when you're in the commercial for sync, for TV music world. And believe me, it was no easy task to get my material and to figure out all the coordinates into that system. And you have to really make good friends and keep them in mind, and how to work the system and all these kinds of things. And so it's really great that I was able to get in there at that time, because who knows what's happening with all that these days. I still utilize my old works and my old connections and my old ways of doing things, but of course everything's gone completely automated now, so who knows what would happen if I try to start doing that at the moment. So that's a little bit about composing music for television and sync, tracking down your cue, and then seeing what the result is with the actual visual, which they worked very well, of course, with the visual. And that's the music supervisors doing their thing. So anyways, thanks. Bye-bye.